we're gonna get going here with the meeting. I'm really excited to talk with everybody and get. Hopefully, this will help everybody get going on some virtual sales during a freaking pandemic of all things. So I'm just gonna let everybody introduce themselves and what they do. So Tara, we'll start with you and then just work down.
Okay, great. So I started doing this full time at the end of 2010. So it's been about a decade. Before that, I was a paralegal, and I started out doing mostly portrait work, and like a sprinkle of weddings. I was doing about 12 weddings a year and much more portrait work than that for probably the first up until about maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And then the past few years I've been doing about 30, 35 weddings a year with sort of portrait work sprinkled in. So I didn't do in-person sales the whole time. I started doing in-person sales with my portrait sessions in 2014. And it was a complete game changer. So I'm really excited for what everyone's going to learn about today.
Awesome. All right, Ray, where are you at?
Hi. I'm Ray Barnes. I'm right outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And I have been in business technically for almost 6 years, but opposite, I started with weddings and now I do families only. Yeah, and it's been my full-time job ever since 2006. I have 4 children, small children, so that always throws a wrench into things. But yeah, I've been doing in-person sales solely for, I started with it, went to online sales, and now I'm back to it in 2016. So, and it, like Tara said, it's game changer. It tripled, quadrupled my sales. So, yeah.
Awesome. Leah?
My name is Lydia, and I run Lydia LeClaire Photography. I'm based in Massachusetts on Cape Cod, and I started over 10 years ago, mostly with portraits, kind of a sprinkling of weddings. And I have a studio on the Cape, and I do IPS there, but I started remote IPS a few years ago. I mostly get destination, location, on location, or tourist town, destination, location families. So they're here just for a weekend or a week. A lot of times it's extended families. So, families of 4 to families of 30. So, if for some reason they're not able to meet at the studio, I kind of started with the remote part a little bit ago. And now, of course, due to what's happening more so, the remote online sales.
Great. All right, Lee.
Yeah, I'm Lee. I'm in the Houston area. And so started my business back in about 2011 and honestly started IPS 2 months later. Have been in IPS the entire time and have really seen the value of that to clients and to me. And so I do all portrait work. I don't do any events or never have. So it's kind of a little stressful right now because none of that's happening.
Yeah.
But I'm sure we're all in the same boat there, but hopefully able to, wrap up the clients that we have already had the opportunity to do their sessions through virtual meetings like this. So.
Awesome. So the point for me of this is just to kind of give everybody another tool set, hopefully. We obviously have no idea where this is going to head in the future. This is like a day-by-day, week-by-week thing. And so you may need this, even if things get back to normal quickly, you might need this for clients that are in destination situations or things like that. So it's always just good to know how to do this, regardless of where we head. But then there's also a chance that this could become normal for a little bit. So if we kind of, this is a prolonged thing that where some things maybe get relaxed for a little bit, and then maybe some shoots could happen for a short window, but then everybody has to go back to isolation again. So you might be able to shoot really heavy for a week, and then everybody, then you could do online things after. So we're all trying to just make it up as we go. So I just hope this is beneficial for everybody. So I just want to kind of go through the process a little bit, 5 quick topics. Everybody kind of chime in each one, because I'm sure everybody does it a little different. But so the first one is just how you prepare your client for the virtual meeting. What do you send them? How do you get them thinking about physical products, even though you're doing it digitally? We can go in the same order if that works.
Okay, sure. So I think that really this is one of the most important parts to understand, because if you're someone who's only been doing everything digitally in terms of like, you give your clients a gallery to go pick out their photos and check out on their own, and your pricing is based on that, and you don't really, put much focus on products or even offer them at all, just sort of jumping straight into this when you haven't prepared your clients is going to probably be a bit of a mess. And I think that's something that, so there's going to be a little bit of a difference, I think, between people who are just simply moving to online sales because of COVID versus, if they've already been doing products and things like that. So it's really going to have to be tailored to each person who's doing it. So it starts at the very beginning. I think everybody would agree. I mean, it's really good if you can have on your website, photos of products and some sort of, so that when people go there, they see like, oh, look at these cool products, and you can show them, displayed in your clients' homes, or there's really cool things that you can buy that give beautiful, mock-ups that you can put your own photos into and things like that. So you put that on your website. That way people automatically right away when they see that know, okay, this is like a high-end photographer. This is someone who sells products, that kind of thing. You want to also mention it in your FAQs if you have an FAQ, and then upon the initial inquiry, in your response, there should also be mention of it, whether you respond via email or get them on the phone. A lot of in-person sales photographers like to get people on the phone so they can really find out what their needs are and start evaluating that, and show them how they can meet their needs, and then go through what the steps are in their process and everything. Because the biggest hang up that you're going to come across a lot of times is confusion, or people having expectations that are different from what you're actually doing, because there are so many photographers who don't do this that a lot of clients out there have only been exposed to people who don't do it this way, and so they have an expectation, and you have to work with that. You have to educate them. So things that I've done in the past have been printed materials that you can actually send out a packet, like a welcome packet to your client that they can actually have in their hand. And that also sets the tone for, this isn't just all online. Like, this is a physical product in your hand. It should look beautiful. You can send out reminder cards, things like that. And you just want to keep hitting on those, what they should expect. And that type of thing, at as many contact points along the way. You can talk about it during the shoot too, in terms of, if you found out through this process that they want a wall of photos in their house, you can talk to them. I have questionnaires that I send out as well that are ask them specifically what rooms they might want to put their wall art in, I ask them about the color schemes of their house. And then that way you can plan wardrobe to actually match sort of their style and the color schemes in their house. That way it's going to be a piece that's going to look good on their wall. And that all helps. So there's so much more that could be said, and I'm sure people have more things to add, but I think that's a good start.
Yeah, great. Rick?
Yeah, so I would ditto all of that. My system is very specific. I do have everything on my website as far as pictures of products and what they can expect. I talk about it on the phone, from the very beginning before they even book. This is just part of my process. I walk them through the process. I make sure that I get a good sense of what they're looking for. And even though most people have no idea what they're looking for, I just try to give them some ideas. And then once they're booked, I do. I pulled this out while Tara was talking. I send a welcome guide, and inside, like, I give them ideas of what to wear, what to expect from me. I say more than pixels on the screen. I give them ideas of what I offer, starting prices, and then I have actual walls that my clients have had and what those cost so that they can see those big numbers. And they've already heard them on the phone, but just so that, like, I mean, looking at this and seeing, oh, that 5 across is, what is it, 4,500, you know, like, then they're like, oh, that's what 4,500 will get me. So, and then I have, you know, all of the other products and everything. So they get this. And then the next step is that they have a design consult with me. Now, sometimes that happens on Zoom. I prefer to walk into my client's home. Obviously, that's not happening right now. So all my future sessions, we're doing it over Zoom. And I ask them just to kind of walk me through their living space or any space where they're thinking about having something hang. And then if there is a spot, then I ask them to take a picture for me, direct straight on, and with something to scale that they can measure. Piece of paper is the easiest thing. And then I use that in my sale appointment. If I'm working with someone who's remote, who's traveled to me for their session, or I've traveled to them for their session, then at the session, I actually bring something physical so they can pick out an album cover, and maybe look at a few frame samples just to get an idea of the quality in person, because there's nothing really that can substitute that. We do that really quick in the back of my car. It feels a little like, hey, come and check this out. But I tell them, like, if this is our only chance for you to physically see this and touch this, like, this is when you need to do that. In order to understand, you know, the value of why everything costs what it does. Like, I only offer really high quality products. Yeah, so all of those things really have to happen in order to have a successful sales appointment.
I've done the same thing in the back of the car, knowing if we couldn't have a studio session.
Yeah.
I'd be like, all right, listen, before we, you know, right before,
In your
kind of
coat,
get the
like,
whole,
here's my
I like that. Oh, yeah.
the frame samples.
You guys, I never had the nerve to do that, so this is inspiring for me.
Yeah. Well, it's good. Then they're glad you did it, because then they're like, oh, okay, you take the 5 or 10 minutes just so they can see the physical products. I mean, same for both of you guys. You know, you're kind of starting at the very beginning, prepping them for their sale. Specifically, you know, to the remote session, I also do a questionnaire at the beginning. So asking kind of like about their home and like the products they're interested for. I'll go a little bit further to not repeat what you guys said as far as prepping the clients. What I do is I send them an email before the call, kind of going through everything and managing expectations like we always talk about with regular IPS. So a super detailed email as far as, you know, getting them ready as far as setting a set time where like there's no kids around. I tell them, you know, I send them the link here, download Zoom or Skype. I mean, there's a lot of different platforms now to use, you know, so prepare them for that. Make sure you download the program, let them know the length of the call. So maybe it'll take about an hour. Usually that's what I like to do. And that's enough time even for remote sessions. And then kind of what to expect as far as like, we're going to sit down, we'll go through all of your images, we'll select favorites, we'll narrow them down. I can show you an album layout. And then same as Ray was saying, I also get them at the time of booking to take a picture of potential walls that they'll want artwork. So it is kind of a multi-step process as far as, you know, first call, hey, what would you be interested in doing with your images from this session? The questionnaire, potentially showing them products in person. And then, you know, if you can't, just that email really of expectations. And then the very last thing should be, you know, that all sales will take place during this call, so that they're fully aware of that too. So that's kind of my process, right before the call.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, everything you guys have said is exactly on track. I think it's so important when you're used to a in-person model, physically in-person model, and moving it to a virtual space. It's so important to normalize that to clients. This isn't, don't talk about it like we're going to try this out and hopefully it'll work and I don't know what's going to happen. Instead, we're going to do it this way and it's going to be great and you're still going to get all the service that you would normally have. We're going to be able to pick things out. I'm going to be able to show you and make it be just as good as them sitting next to you in the studio. Because if your client has confidence that you know what you're doing and you have a process in place to handle this, which is why we're doing this Zoom call to help you guys get there, they're going to feel confident moving forward. Like, you know what you're doing, you know how to show them what they need to see, how to answer their questions, and you're just as prepared for this scenario as you are any other time that they would have an appointment with you in the studio. So I think normalizing behavior is such an important part of any kind of IPS, and especially in this specific regard. Just, it's normal. It's fine. We're going to do it online and it's going to be just fine. And reiterating that positive attitude towards it versus nervousness and uncertainty. So I think we could all use a lot of reassurance these days. So giving that to your clients is only going to help your sale.
Excellent. Real quick, I was just curious, like, just to give people a ballpark, where is your kind of, if you don't mind sharing, like, average sales, like what's like the highest sale you've ever done with this, to show, to see people the potential of how it can still work?
Okay, so I would say, so first I want to mention that I have sort of a hybrid way of doing things. I know a lot of IPS photographers really focus only on products, and if there's digitals involved at all, then it's either like they come with something you purchase, or it might just be web size files. I do things a little bit differently, where I do have, my clients can actually purchase the high resolution digitals only without any products as well. So I just want to sort of mention that, because I'm gonna tie that in here in a second. Wait, remind me what the question was again.
Just sales figures you've done in the past.
Oh, sales figures, right.
Yeah.
Okay, right. Okay. So, but that's why I wanted to mention that, though. Okay, because so just right off the bat, I just want to say that my full gallery purchase, if they want to buy just the digitals, the full gallery for a family session or something like that, which are usually pretty large, like around 100 photos, sometimes more, because it's sort of a hybrid of portrait and lifestyle, that's $2,000. So right off the bat, $2,000, and it's extremely rare that at least that is not purchased. So, and then there's a $200 session fee that they pay in the beginning on top of that, which is not credited to them in any way. So it's $2,200 sale. It's very rare that I have anything less than that. So of course, though, you want to try and sell products and show them how important products are and things like that. So I have where you can like add things on a la carte, or you can create your own collection. But I also have the whole 3 collection setup, which a lot of people do, where you have your middle collection that's sort of your goal and sort of what is the most attractive collection, and then the higher one, which is like the big sale you're super excited about if you get it, and then like the lower one that kind of stinks and nobody really wants. So my middle collection is $2,500, and so you can see there's not much of a difference between that and the digitals. And the reason for that is because, wow, like I can spend $500 more and I can also get an album, and I can get wall art, and I can get some prints, you know what I mean? So it's really like a good incentive for people to go ahead and just spend that little bit more money, you know, and actually have physical products. And then in the future, when they come back to you, now they've seen those products and they know, yeah, I want physical products. So I would say my minimum sales typically around 2,200, and then I've gone up to between 6,000 and 7,000.
Cool.
So my average last year was just over 5,000 for family portrait sessions. I do everything a la carte, so there's nothing that everybody gets. Most people do get an album. Actually, everybody last year did get an album. I do 1 or 2 mini sessions a year, which are limited edition, usually only offered to return clients for a quick updated session of just the kids. And those are like 15, 20 minutes. That average is 2,000. My highest sale last year was almost 14,000. And that was an extended family. So there were 3 albums and 9 pieces that Michael did, or his crew did, for the grandparents as well. So, yeah.
So for me, I also do a la carte, and I also do a kind of a combination of posed and lifestyle images during my sessions. So they can purchase single high resolution files, and then also a lot of times they'll get physical products, a lot of times albums, and the wall art, and then the digital files. Sometimes a lot, sometimes all of them, sometimes just a few for their holiday cards. So it really is like choose your own adventure as far as products go. So for me, the remote sales have not been too different. I can consistently get like a $3,000 purchase. My highest was around 6,000. But then sometimes that's also, like Ray said, for extended families, it can be more depending on what people are getting. If it's like the subgroups, it's usually like the main group, the grandparents, and then each subfamily. But those also vary from someone gets just, spends a couple $100 on a print, and then other people get like an album, or they gift it for their grandparents.
So my average sale just overall is right about 3,100. Last year, I think my largest sale was just shy of 11,000. And then using for the clients that I have some out of town clients, especially that come down for beach sessions, and sale last year. Yeah, it was last year, was 7,000 doing it virtually, which is obviously well over average. And so I don't find a significant difference between doing it virtually versus in person either. I think somebody said that. So.
Great. Let's talk software programs. So what are some third-party software programs that you use maybe during the virtual call, where you like share your screen or something and show off maybe a wall gallery arrangement or something like that? Yeah, so let's just go through that real quick.
Okay, so first of all, Pixieset is who I use for my gallery system. So that's something that will be used throughout the call to give them a really good view of their images. But I start off with a slideshow set to music. I've used different companies. When I first started, I used Animoto. Haven't used them in a while, but they're a good way to go. More recently, I've used the Smart Slides. You can even do them in Lightroom if you want. You don't have to have a special program if you don't want to spend money right now. I think that's really important for people right now. So there are ways to do it in Lightroom. And remembering the whole goal of this is keeping control on your side, not giving control of the gallery and the images to your clients, for them to be able to just be on their own, clicking through everything, and screenshotting and everything else. So you want to be sharing your screen, like you said. So I do a screen share where they can see their slideshow. And I feel like the reason for that is it sort of creates like an emotional connection from the beginning, because the music makes it emotional and, that sort of thing. And it's just a little bit of a better presentation than just, here's your gallery, So I do that. And then after the gallery, then every client is a little bit different the way it goes, but then I'll go into letting them look more closely at their individual images through Pixieset. So I can scroll around and click on things for them and whatnot. And if we move into making image selections, you can use the heart feature and that Pixieset has to do the different favorite lists and stuff. I use Fundy to design my albums. So I try to have an album mock-up design. I think this is really important. If you want to sell albums, have one already designed for them in Fundy, and then you can use the Fundy Design Proofer, their online system where you can actually have the mock-up of the album design, and it flips through like it's a book. So you can actually, it gives them a really good visual when you can't be in person. I mean, you can obviously have like your album samples as well to just like hold up to the screen, but it's nice for them to see and visualize their own stuff. So I use Fundy for that. Trying to think if there's anything else. I don't think so. I mean, I do mock-ups of other, so shoot and sell, right? That's it, you guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like Ray was talking about, I think, where, you take a picture of their wall, or they can take a picture of their wall. Oh my gosh, if you can put their own artwork to scale on their own wall to show them, that's amazing. Because you know how most people are like, oh, an 8x10 is big, but when they see it on their wall, they're going to be like, what? That's an 8x10, and then show them a 30x40 or a 40x60, and they're going to be like, oh, wow. Or you can do all the different groupings and just give people visuals. So that's a good one. And then I think it might be owned by the same company. You guys, if you know this, let me know. But I want to say Ariana Forelli, is that her name? She does the wall art mock-ups, beautiful, all different styles. So like if a lot of your clients really like sort of boho stuff, or they really like, mid-century modern, or they're like rustic or whatever, you can kind of tailor it because she has all these different collections. And so you can get these mock-up templates, and then you can put your clients' photos in them and it looks a little prettier than like the picture they send you off of their wall, you know what I mean? So that's another way, another good tool is the things that she sells. And she does, they're not cheap, but she does do sales regularly, and who knows, maybe she's doing one now. But yeah, I think those are all like the main things that I use.
Yeah, so I use her ProofShare. And I typically go to my client's home with an iPad, like a just tiny little iPad. That's where I make all my sales on. And I got ProofShare and Shoot and Sell. They were bundled together pretty cheap, especially when you compare it to like ProSelect or Fundy. And it's been working fine for me. I've been using it for almost 4 years now. The ProofShare will have the heart, half heart, empty heart. And it does a slideshow. So we start with the slideshow, get all the emotions going. And then I pull up their image that they sent me or that I took of their wall, show them what I came up with. I always prep and have a couple ideas of what I want to do for their wall galleries or one piece or whatever we're thinking through. So I show them that and see what they think about the wall design. And then we go back through the images to figure out which ones are going to go in the wall. And so we do love, like, or leave. And I help them with that process. And it's pretty easy. Screen share from the iPad onto there, and I make the selections for them. And the whole process is really about helping them make the decision that will make them the most happy. So I use that. We end up usually loving, because I do a lifestyle also, they love way more than they can put on their wall, and that's why they end up with an album. So that's what I use, and I tend to use my phone for Square, just so that I can easily tell them the total, tally it up for them, tell them the total, and then take their credit card right on the spot over our call. And that's really important. I made the mistake last week of one of my really high sales. I was like, oh, she's an old client, she'll pay this. And she's just really busy. And so I'm still waiting for her to pay. And that was a rookie mistake because I always take payment right on the spot.
So I use Fundy for to go through the images, which I'm kind of obsessed with. I started with them a few years ago for album design. And so now I use them to go through the images. They have star ratings, they have heart ratings, and you can easily sort. So again, you can start with the slideshow. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, depending. And then you can go through each image, and I usually will star it if it's a yes. I usually do yes or maybe, and then if it's a no, it's just a no. And then you can do 1 star, and then you can sort, and then those bring up. With Fundy, you can select. You can have an album already designed for them to show. You have wall mock-ups also that you can show them on the spot, and then the same thing, you can bring in a picture that they took of their own wall, so that they can see their images there. A tip, like for anyone who's just starting out for the remote sessions or not wanting to invest in anything yet, I actually started in Lightroom. So if you're like nervous about using a third party or just about an expense right now, and you need to set up a remote session for like a recent session that you can no longer do in person, Lightroom is good too. I mean, you can do a slideshow with music there. Same thing with the ratings. You can put images side by side to compare. And then you can also, if you do have Ariana's walls or the client walls, you can upload those images into Lightroom as well. So that shouldn't hold you back. You can start there.
Yeah, I actually use Lightroom. I use it for every single sales session. So it's a great option if you're not even like I said, I use it in studio every time too. I just prefer it, and it gives me plenty of options to star and flag different colors. It's a great option. I do my slideshows through there. And then for remote sessions, everybody's mentioned Shoot and Sell, which I love and you've used for years. If you're not used to doing it remotely, to share your iPad screen, like I use Lightroom on my computer. That's what I share my screen through. And then when you have your iPad, you can plug it into your computer with a lightning cord. And then you can open QuickTime and do a screen recording and open your iPad screen. So you have your iPad screen as a window on your computer, plus Lightroom or Fundy or whatever you guys use to share your images, and then and that way you can design walls on your iPad, share it to your client, show them the images. It just helps. That's how I do to share all that stuff, because sometimes just the technicalities of how to present to a client when you're not used to doing remote sessions, I know is part of the overwhelming part. You don't have to spend money. You almost guaranteed you have something already in your toolbox that you can use. And so like I think somebody else said, now is not the time to start investing in a bunch of programs and things that you have to spend money on. We're probably all trying to hunker down a little bit. So use what you got. You can make it work.
I actually have a quick question for you guys.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Good.
What do you guys do to incentivize your clients to send you those photos of their walls that they may want portraits on? Because that's something I personally have struggled with a little bit. People say, oh yeah, okay. And then like they just really don't get around to it. So I have a hard time doing that unless I'm actually in person at their house. So how do you guys incentivize clients for your online meetings to get them to send you those photos?
Say something. I don't really have an incentive, but what I do is when they book, I have a page where it walks them through how to take it, how to take the photo. But when we're talking on the phone, I tell them that I don't say it's a requirement. So I kind of casually am just like, hey, take a picture of some walls that could potentially be used for wall art. Like there's no obligation to get wall art. It's kind of just like an option. Be like, just so I have a few available. You know, I don't make them do it, but when it's not like forced, they kind of, I don't know, they all do it. Or now that it's remote, I've had a couple clients walk me around their homes and we like talk together about that. But yeah, I don't know what the other girls have to say, but I kind of say, you know, when you have a free minute, just a few quick snaps of their walls. And then I'll send them like a reminder email. But I don't know, do you guys have incentives?
I don't.
Yeah. I don't. And I do have some clients that won't end up sending me a picture, and they tend to be the people that are not as interested in wall art, that just really wanted the album. So I don't, but if they end up on a sales appointment with me and they are wanting wall art and they haven't sent that, then we end up, it just tricks things up. So I try to be proactive and say, look, if you're interested in wall art, even if you like are just trying to consider it, please send this to me. It'll make things go much smoother. I can give you the most accurate picture of what will be the appropriate size for your space, because we certainly don't want to go too small or too big for you. And so just turning it as like, I'm trying to serve you, just, you know, like if you want some ideas, please do this. And it'll help us move things a little quicker. And most people like to hear things will be quicker and easier. So, yeah, that's the best I can do. I mean, I do have some guesses too. Like I know what size is good above a mantle. I know what size is good above a couch, you know, but it's always best to have those pictures.
They can take it with their phone and text you too.
Yeah.
So it's really quick.
Yeah, if you're in a virtual space anyway and they're sitting in their house, there's no reason they can't pop up for 2 minutes and go take a picture.
You could do that during the call. Yeah, and I've had people like take the computers and they're like, all right, here's
Yeah,
here's the potential.
exactly.
You guys both everybody's kind of mentioned this a little bit, but I was just going to hit on if there's anything we've missed in terms of digital samples of showing physical products. Maybe we've already covered that. Like Ray's got we've got physical magazines being mailed out, which would be awesome. Is there any other digital things you're showing, just like pictures of frame corners or anything like that I'm not thinking of?
Okay, so what I have done, this is not something I started doing right away, and I haven't done it for every session. Sometimes it depends on how much time I have to prepare. But something that I found that works really nicely is creating a visual for them of the products that are, okay, for me, because I have collections, most of my, so my middle collection, which is like the most popular one, it includes the full digital gallery, it includes an album, and it includes a wall art credit, which I make suggestions for what they can use it for. It's pretty big credit, so they can do like a whole wall or like a really big canvas or something like that, and then some prints. And then I also, you know, let them know they'll get like, probably a lot of us do those little mobile galleries, you know, either through like Pixieset has them for your phone with their photos, or gosh, what was the name? There was Sticky Folios is the one I think you kind of started it. So what I'll do is I will put, I'll do mock-ups of like what that little album would look like. I do some wall art mock-ups that would go along with like what they would get with that collection. I do like a mock-up of a picture of an album, and sometimes I sell like the little accordion albums, so I'll go ahead and do like a design with their photos, and then I'll, you know, paste that into the document as well. So while I'm visually showing them like, okay, this is what is in this collection, it's not just words on a piece of paper, it's also a visual representation of an example of what they're going to get. And even better if I've been able to take the time to put their own photos in it so they can see it that way. So that's something that I do. And then, like a lot of us have talked about already, doing those mock-ups of the albums and the wall art and stuff like that.
I think it's great to add things to your Instagram if, or any of your social media, just kind of making sure that you are putting it out there all the time in all platforms, that this is what you offer and this is what people are getting, and just normalizing it. I usually do a story of when we install the wall pieces, and I highlight those, and then I do stories walking through the albums, and so people just expect that.
I'll say I like Ray's physical guide that she mails out. I also have pictures and some videos on my website, and then also during the call, I will usually start off, the slideshow. I'll show them physical, I'll show them physical products. So, we'll go through real quick just of the offerings, and I'll like hold it up in like the corner of a canvas. And again, just kind of show them that and describe the features, the benefits to them, kind of what it's made of. If it's like an album with thick pages, lay flat, I'll just kind of go through real quick once again. That way also during the remote call.
Yeah, I have a catalog, looks pretty similar to Ray's, that it's the entire purpose of the catalog. It is not about getting ready for the session. It's all about getting ready for the sale. And so it's tons of, I go and install all the galleries that we do. So I have tons of pictures of actual galleries installed on actual walls, which is so beneficial to clients. And so it's full of that with all that. And then as far as showing them things during the session, I definitely do the back of the car. See, look at the, like if we're not going to be meeting together, but then we do a lot of framing in-house. And so we have a ton of corner options. And so I'll send them once we kind of narrow things down and I know they're looking for like a white wood frame, then we'll, I'll send them over a couple, pictures of those corner options. And so that's kind of how we handle framing. Is just, I don't send them like a big catalog of here's 50 frame corners you could choose from. It's more, narrowing it down by talking to them, finding their preferences, and then sending over 2 to 3 options that meet what they're describing to me. And so that's been working pretty well.
So Rayleigh, so for these, where do you get the catalogs or magazines printed? Are you going MagCloud or Blurb or what's
I
your
use
source?
MagCloud.
Okay.
I use Miller's. So I only print about 10 at a time, and adjust the pricing usually a little bit every 10 clients. So and it comes really fast.
Oh, that's a big thing, you guys, for people who are watching this, is especially if you're just getting started on doing this, do not go out and print like 100 magazines. You're going to to regret that. I did that one time, and I did that for a wedding show, and it was the biggest waste of a lot of money, because your prices change, and the newer you are at this, the more they're going to change, and the faster they're going to change probably, because there's some trial and error to all of this. And so, like she said, just print a few to get started. Don't go crazy.
Yeah, that's a good point. Or you can have the template and put it online. You can get the same template and post it online. But now I really like the physical catalogs, because if they're just doing remote sessions, it's nice that they can be flipping while you're talking and not scrolling on their phone at your online catalog too.
Right. I think when you have a product-based business, having as much tangible in their hands, it just kind of creates that pathway in their mind that this photographer gives me printed stuff, like whatever that's,
Yeah.
you know, whether that's pictures, whether that's a catalog, whatever it is. And I think that when you're having to move to a virtual space to conduct the meeting, still having as much tangible stuff is just sending that brand message that I'm about things being in your hands.
Yeah,
Love
that is really correct. And I just want to give you like a cautionary tale from my business, because like I said, I started putting a focus on weddings for various reasons we won't get into, but and so because of that, I got really, really busy on weddings, and I didn't have as much time to dedicate to my portrait sessions. And so I started letting some things fall by the wayside, like not sending out those welcome packets, not continuing to print my product guides, trying to just do everything online and it was a time issue for me. But I will tell you right now that I saw a huge decrease in product sales when I did that, you guys, like huge. I went from almost always selling collections with physical product to almost always only selling the full digital gallery. And because of my situation, I was kind of okay with that at the time because I was so busy with weddings that it was fine for me to just choose the session, edit them, you know, get $2,200 from that session and not have to order products or design, you know, a bunch of products or, you know, or anything like that. So that was okay. But I'm just letting you know that what they're saying is so true, that if you are going to have a product-based business and you want people to buy products, you have to get tangible things into their hands. It's really important. And it also sets you above, because you have to remember there's a lot of photographers out there who are not doing this. And what makes you different? Like, what makes you worth spending this much more money than they could just go and get like a $300 session elsewhere? You have to show them that.
Awesome. Yeah, this is good. It's giving me a little to-do list I need to do for the lab, so that's great. Let's talk closing the deal here as we wrap this up. So anything you do maybe incentive-wise to encourage them to make a decision during the virtual sales session, and then Ray's already mentioned this, but how do you take payment just right there to make it quick and easy?
Okay, I'm probably not the best person for this question. Okay, so I have never done a specific incentive to get them to close it that day. I just basically don't give them any other option. Like this, I just make sure they know, you know, and I have in my questionnaire that they fill out prior to their session, there is a part at the end that is all in bold and basically says this is really important, you guys. All decision makers must be present at the session reveal. Okay, because you don't want to go through this whole thing with them and then at the end they say, oh, but I got to ask my husband, or can I just have some extra time so that I can talk this over with my spouse? You know, that's going to ruin it, completely ruin it. So if they need to know up front that orders are placed at this time, and you know, unless you have sole decision-making power and you know you don't need to talk to anybody else, you need to have your partner, you know, present with you at that meeting. So those are kind of the things that I do. I have, and you know, I'm sure, I don't know, I was going to say I'm sure everybody has run into this, but maybe you haven't. But I know a lot of people probably have run into where things kind of go a little bit wrong. You know, maybe you didn't cross your T's and dot all your I's as much as you should have beforehand, and expectations weren't as clearly communicated as they should have been, or whatever, because sometimes it's the client's fault too. But and an online session like this will end up going poorly because, you know, like Ray mentioned, you know, you don't take payment right away, and they start dragging their feet on that, and that gives them time also to start like filling their own heads with doubt, you know, that kind of thing. So it's just really important to make sure that there's clear expectations set and that they know, you know, what's going on and what they're supposed to be doing. I mean, when I first learned about how to do this, I was told that you tell them anything you don't buy today is not archived. So basically, you don't buy it, it's gone. You're never getting it back. I had a lot of struggle with actually saying that myself because it wasn't really true. So I felt like I was lying to my clients because I just couldn't bring myself to actually delete their images, you know? And B, I just don't know exactly how I feel about that myself, but it truly is, it truly is the truth that if you don't make that sale at that time, the likelihood of you making that sale at all, or if you do, making it anywhere near what it could have been at a later date, even if it's like the next day or whatever, it's so slim, you guys. Like it almost never happens. So you do have to try your best to make that sale a day. So I'm interested in hearing what all the rest of you guys have to say, if you have like incentives or things like that to get them to do it.
Yeah. So I don't incentivize it. Kind of like Tara, I just make it very clear from the very beginning, even when they inquire, like, this is how things are done. We have an ordering appointment. That's when you will order everything that you want. No worries. I'm here to guide you through it. So it's, it's pretty clear that that's the option. And I typically do take payment over Square, like right on the spot. I'm building their invoice as we go. So that if they ever have a question of how much something costs, like I have it right there. I've already been building their receipt. So yeah, and it does cost more to do it remotely, to key in their number, but I think it is well worth it because every time I have sent someone an invoice and been like, you just handle that when we get off the call. It takes forever to get that payment. So yeah, so we just don't want to, let that happen really. And I have had some people come back and order more, but it's extremely rare. So
I'm the same. I don't have an incentive. Again, actually in the contract they sign, they check a box that says, there is a viewing and ordering appointment. All sales are made at that time and final. Again, in the questionnaire, again, in that email I send out, prepping them for the call. It's like, the length of time and, you'll be purchasing all orders at this time. It is different for extended families because I will set up separate Zoom appointments for each person interested in ordering. You don't want like 10 windows up of all the family members. So I'll do separate sessions like that. But yeah, no incentive. It's just the managing the expectations and communicating with the client. And then same as the other two, I used to send an invoice right after the call. And most of the time people would pay. I think I had one person not pay or just not come back. It wasn't a huge order. And now I do the same thing as Ray. I have my phone next to me, and it is a slightly higher percentage on Square to manually enter the credit card. But again, super worth it so that you get it, it's done. They know all sales are final. They're locked in. You can say you'll start working on the order tomorrow or editing or whatever it may be. But then it's kind of like a peace of mind, and it's just worth that.
Yep, same. Basically, I don't have incentives.
Yeah.
It's just, again, about normalizing the process. Like, this is what we do, and this is what's expected of you, just setting those expectations. And then, yeah, never assume a client is good for it. Always, always, always get payment at the time, or even if it has to be a payment plan or something like that, like get a monetary commitment before you close your window, because once that's done, it's out of your hands beyond that point. The only times I've had people come back to change orders after the fact, like they rethought it, are because for whatever reason, it happened that they didn't pay that day. Once they pay, they're locked in. They know there's no changes in refunds, and I never have any issues after that. But if they, leave without paying for whatever reason, that's when issues start coming up. Either I have to chase them down, or they talked it over and we think we need to change this and this, or whatever. And so it's just a hassle. So always get money, get paid.
I wanted to mention something else too. So, okay. I might be the only one who does this. And this is kind of a mixed bag, you guys, but it can be something to save you, I think, sometimes in certain situations. So sometimes what I'll do is, sometimes people have a hard time deciding on what particular images they want on their walls, even though like I've given them options to look at and see, or what particular images they want in their album. It can be kind of overwhelming, to choose all of your photos for the album right then and there. Sometimes people just start feeling overwhelmed. And this maybe also works a little differently for me because of the collections. But so like, let's say someone purchases a collection that has, an album and then wall art credit in it. I will allow them to go ahead and purchase that collection and then make their selections for their wall art and stuff like that on their own time, because those collections come with the full digital gallery. So then they're able to, send me, retroactively send me like their favorite photos and have me do more wall art mock-ups for them so that they can make a final decision. Sometimes they really want to sit down and talk about it a little bit more with like their spouse or whatever. And that's a way around, and especially people who are doing this that are more new to it, if you're getting a lot of like feelings of discomfort coming through from the client on like making decisions right now. I know I'm one of those people. I get like that when I'm put on the spot, and when it's like sort of a time limit, I get like my brain just starts to feel like not, it's just like I'm frazzled and I get kind of panicky. So that can be a way to still make your sale and still get that money that day out of like a commitment, a monetary commitment, like she said, while, not like, potentially you ruining the whole sale if they just kind of get so like, I just don't want to do this today. I just don't want to have to, because you will very occasionally get some pushback from a client. A lot of times it's a communication issue between a husband and a wife or something like that. And the husband's like, wait, I didn't realize we had to, make this decision right now or whatever. So that's just a little tip for something you can pull out of your bag if you need to save the sale, to still get their money that day and lock them into, their purchase or their collection purchase or whatever. And then they can still have a little time on the back end to make some of those bigger decisions. They can't make changes to what they bought, but they can make changes to the specific images that they want to put on their wall and that kind of thing.
Awesome. Well, I just want to thank each of you. You guys are rock stars. Thanks for helping everybody during this time and helping the industry push forward here. So hang tight, everybody. Be safe. I'm going to be recording this. I'm going to either put this on YouTube or I'll just repost it back in the Musea Facebook group, and then we'll try to put links to some of the resources that have been discussed today. So anyway, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.